This is a recording of my early efforts at queen rearing, and my aim is to illustrate a method of producing good queens. Hopefully the film will promote discussion and encourage others to raise their own queens. It shows there is no mystique in the subject and that no undue skill is required. Success is well within the capabilities of any beekeeper, provided he follows a few important guidelines. To go through the stages from selection of the stock to the culmination of seeing virgin queens emerge and set off and return from maiden flights is an experience to be remembered. A start is made by preparing the frame and the queen cups. Here reusable plastic cups are used, but they must be thoroughly clean inside. In this example, a super frame is used with a removable centre bar. This gives easy access for grafting. With plastic cups, the rims are dipped in wax. This makes them acceptable to the bees. Wax is poured liberally over the bars, and so it's available for the bees when they want to start drawing out the queen cells. The base of the cup is dipped in hot wax, and this is enough to initially hold the cup in place on the bar. And yet another drop of wax is poured around the base of the cups to secure them further. The bottom bar could take a third row of cups, but now this frame stands ready for grafting. This is the stock which will receive the grafted queen cups, the queen rearing colony, and develop them into prime queen cells. The hive must be healthy, strong in bees to the point of congestion, have brood in all stages in abundance, and a good supply of pollen. During the operation, it will be fed continuously with sugar syrup. This is day 1. The queen rearing hive should now be strong in bees and brood in all stages, ready for division. Box A will take all the brood and eventually the queen cups. Box B will take the queen with drawn comb and stores. With hindsight, the super should have been removed before starting, and the bees added to the strength of the hive. It certainly proved a hindrance as the operations progressed. bees are in a frame of mind like this, good temper, I don't wear protective clothing. But for anyone involved in this work, and any other job working with bees, the use of full protective clothing is strongly recommended at all times. Careful check on each frame has to be made to make sure the queen's not there. A good pattern of brood on the second frame. So the first, which is a store, goes to the outside. More brood, but a disappointing lack of number of bees. This was being done in May 1989, when there was a particularly good spring flow, and the results of that are apparent in the build-up of honey around the brood patterns on each frame. Last frame of stores goes into brood box B. That'll be the first for the queen. In the lower brood box, more brood. Here's the queen in the centre of the frame. So she goes into box B. Now the hive's rebuilt. The queen in her box with virtually no brood but plenty of space and stores goes on the floor. Queen excluder on top because of the super. And above the super goes the box with all the brood and the one that will receive the graft of eggs in a week's time. Now separated from the queen, the bees in the top box have the opportunity to make queen cells from existing larvae. This is the box that will be fed through the rest of the operation. With plenty of nurse bees and plenty of emerging brood, they should be in a position to generously feed the queen cells that they will build. Selection of the stock to provide the larvae is of the greatest importance. It need not be the stock which will make the queen cells, but as the new queens are likely to produce bees which reflect the characteristics of the parent hive, be they good or bad, it's important to select the best. Ideally, this breeding stock should have healthy, docile bees which need little smoke, those which sit quietly on the frames and make inspections easy. Bees which stay in the hive or return after inspection and do not follow or chase the beekeeper, or worse still the neighbours, for hours afterwards. They should be prolific in brood raising with a proven ability to forage and collect surplus. They should winter well without undue consumption of stores and be in a position to expand in spring. And they should show no undue tendency to swarming. Quite a list, but an indifferent queen is unlikely to produce good successes. Also on day one, the queen breeding stock is given a newly drawn brood comb, and this is placed next to the one the queen is laying on. It is easier when grafting to work from new comb. It's now day 8, and about mid-morning is the time for the next inspection. Box A, with all the brood, is opened, and a store frame from the end is removed. Apart from giving space for working, one frame has to be removed to make space for the one with the grafted queen cups to be put in shortly. Now each of the frames has to be checked for queen cells. These bees have been separated from their queen for a week by a queen excluder, and in this case a super, and they may have made queen cells. A visual check is usually not enough. Without shaking the bees, shaking the frames and removing most of the bees, so that a completely clear view can be seen of any that might be hidden in corners. The picture now shows a certain amount of the brood has emerged, but there is still quite a lot of brood capped. Any queen cells found must be completely removed, and the grub must really be taken right away from the frame. It is possible for the bees to rebuild, unlikely but possible. Now the combs are spaced to leave a gap in the centre, and this gap will be between two brood frames. This is the space that will take the frame of prepared cups, not yet grafted. They're put in during the course of the morning and given several hours for the bees to accept. At this stage, the hive has to be rearranged. Box A with the brood is going to go onto the floor, and this will attract most of the flying bees. The bees that have been flying from the box with the queen will now come back to the normal entrance on the floor. Box A is divided from the rest of the hive by a crown board with its feeder, another crown board with a front opening, and then box B with the queen, and eventually it's super again on top of that. So now the bees in box A with the brood and the cups are completely separated from their queen. There's a little uncertainty at the entrances, but they'll soon sort themselves out. Still day 8, now in the afternoon, some 4 hours after the morning session. The queen rearing unit is opened again, and the frame with the prepared cups as exposed. The bees seem quite happy with the frame, and they've tipped the cups with new white wax. This is the breeding unit, and the frame in the centre is the one which is carrying the young larvae to be grafted into the cups. A 00 sable brush or a small wire hook are the tools commonly used for grafting larvae. It helps to cut down the ribs of the comb to expose the larvae and makes it easier to put the brush or the hook underneath them and lift them out. Then they're slipped off into the cups. Prepared cups have to be kept protected, particularly from the drying wind. Temperature isn't too critical. With the hive rebuilt, all the activity now is centred at the bottom, where all the bees are congregating. It's now day 9. This is the day of reckoning. For in the past 24 hours the bees will or will not have accepted the grafted cups. This is apparent by the development of the wax cell, which by now should be half built. Yes, 1 on the top, 1 missed, 2, 3, 4, 5 on the top row. Missed 1, then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 on the bottom row. Well, that looks promising. The hive is now reassembled with a top opening for box A, and it's left until the queens are fully mature and within a day of emerging. The deflector board is put there to deflect the bees from the lower entrance to the upper one. At least initially it creates some confusion. I had planned to distribute the queen cells 2 days before they were due to emerge, but I lost 1 day through bad weather, and on the day I came to do this job, I found that to begin with only 5 of the cells had been accepted. And of those 5, 3 were already opened, queens emerged, and the remaining 2 contained dead queens. My selection of the larvae must have been at fault, and they were presumably more than the regulation 3 days of age when I grafted them. So the outcome from this exercise was 1 very active virgin queen, 2 dead queens, and 2 killed in their queen cells. The law of the bee world has been applied, and the first virgin to emerge has destroyed the others. There's the victor, now marked and laying. I repeated the exercise again in July, this time using a simpler technique recommended by John Syme, who operates 2,000 hives between the Canterbury Plains and the Southern Alps in New Zealand. The same basic requirements: a strong stock to raise the queens, from larvae grafted from a selected breeding stock. On day 1 the hive is divided, and the queen with stores and comb is put on a new site. Bees, brood and stores, and if necessary more frames of emerging brood, go on the old site and are fed. On day 8, all queen cells are removed, and the frame with grafted larvae is inserted. Day 9, a check is made for acceptance, and 10 days later, sealed queen cells are removed and distributed into hives or nuclei. What could be easier? On this occasion, 6 of the 12 prepared cups were developed into capped queen cells and were distributed a couple of days before emergence. John Syme aims to introduce a taped queen cell into each brood box by early summer. The bees accept the emerging virgin and act as a supersedure, allowing her to mate and in her own time take over from the old queen. This gives him a vigorous new queen each year, and as a result, swarming hardly ever happens. This cell is being taped. The tape must completely cover the wax cell to prevent the bees from tearing it down, but the tip is sufficiently exposed to allow the virgin to emerge. It is placed between frames of capped brood. The remainder of the queen cells are destined for mating nuclei. A method recommended by the late Vince Cook is to divide the frames and bees used in the queen rearing unit and distribute them into mating nuclei. These nukes are placed equidistant around the original site. A frame of stores and 2 with some brood are set up, and the cell is placed between them. No taping is necessary in this case. The stick marks the site of the queen rearing unit. Here 4 nukes are placed facing the original site. Spaced in this way, the nukes remain even in strength, drifting is eliminated, and the queens returning from mating flights find their homes easily. Now the excitement at a restricted entrance, as the bees await the return of their queen. This queen, in the centre near the top of the picture, is receiving close attention from the bees after a flight. A brief peep into her domain, and she's straight out again and ready for another flight. Finally, when the queens have mated, the nukes are gradually moved closer together in order that the bees can be united again after the queens have been distributed.